The great hall of the Galactic Council hummed with the soft murmurs of a dozen different species. Light filtered through the massive dome ceiling, casting rainbow patterns across the assembled delegates. At the center of it all stood Trom, his blue-gray skin glistening under the lights as he addressed the council. "Esteemed members," Trom said, his voice amplified by the chamber's perfect acoustics. "Today I present my latest research on the human myths." A ripple of amusement passed through the audience. The humans were a favorite topic of entertainment, a supposedly fearsome species that, according to ancient texts, could survive in almost any environment, and possessed an unmatched drive for both creation and destruction. Council Leader Dex, a tall, thin being with 4 arms and eyes that glowed amber, leaned forward. "Professor Trom, while we appreciate your dedication to historical curiosities, this council has real concerns to address. The border outposts report unusual signal patterns." "With respect, Leader," Trom replied, "these myths appear across too many cultures to be mere stories. The texts describe beings who could adapt to any hardship, who built mighty machines." "Whoa, who braved poison and drank acid," interrupted Delegate Murr, a bulky representative from the mineral-based Krith species. "Who could regrow lost limbs and survive in the vacuum of space without protection." "Clearly exaggerations, Professor." Laughter echoed through the chamber, but Trom remained serious. He tapped his data pad, and holographic images appeared above the central platform. Ancient drawings of bipedal creatures wielding tools, building structures, and riding primitive vehicles. "The stories vary," Trom admitted, "but the core details remain consistent across thousands of years and dozens of cultures. A species called humans existed on a blue planet in an unremarkable solar system. They were not the strongest, fastest, or most intelligent beings, but they possessed remarkable adaptability and determination. And they vanished," Leader Dex said flatly. "If they ever existed at all." Trom nodded. "The records suggest they disappeared nearly 500 galactic cycles ago. Some texts claim they destroyed themselves in war. Others suggest natural disaster. The most interesting accounts describe them fleeing to the stars after some great calamity." "Fascinating as always, Professor," Leader Dex said, making no attempt to hide his boredom. "But we must move on to actual matters of importance. The unusual signals." The chamber doors burst open, and a messenger rushed in, breaking all protocol. The small green-skinned Vis was breathing hard, their eyes wide with alarm. "Emergency transmission from Outpost 7. They gasped, handing a data crystal to Leader Dex. The mood in the chamber shifted instantly. Outpost 7 guarded the furthest edge of Council space, a first line of defense against whatever might exist beyond the mapped galaxy. Dex inserted the crystal into his console. A holographic display appeared, showing a Vis officer whose uniform was torn and stained. The background showed flashing emergency lights and smoke. "This is Commander Lim of Outpost 7. The recording began. Static cut through the message, breaking it into fragments. "We are under attack by unknown vessels. They appeared from nowhere. Technology unlike anything. Incredible weapons." More static. "The old stories were true. They're real." The hum. The transmission cut out completely. Silence filled the chamber. Then everyone began speaking at once. "Silence," Leader Dex shouted, raising all 4 arms. The chamber quieted immediately. "This is clearly a pirate attack. The commander is confused from the stress of battle." "But what did he mean by the old stories?" asked Delegate Murr. "Could he have meant?" "Nonsense," Dex snapped. "Pirates often use psychological tactics. They'd probably hacked our communication systems and learned about Professor Trom's research. It's a scare tactic, nothing more." Trom stepped forward. "Leader Dex, we should investigate, if there's even a slight chance. The defense fleet will handle this matter," Dex said firmly. "We've dealt with pirates before. This council meeting is adjourned until further notice." As the delegates filed out, Trom remained in place, staring at the frozen image of the panicked commander. Something about the genuine fear in those eyes troubled him deeply. He downloaded a copy of the transmission to his personal data pad before anyone could stop him. 3 days later, Trom sat alone in his small office, surrounded by ancient texts and artifacts. The walls were lined with shelves containing fragments of pottery, metal, and strange synthetic materials that some claimed originated from human habitations. Most scholars dismissed them as forgeries or misidentified alien artifacts, but Trom wasn't so sure. He played the transmission from Outpost 7 for the 100th time. Focusing on the background details, something caught his attention, a reflection in a metal panel behind Commander Lim. He enhanced the image, trying to clarify what he was seeing. A shape, bipedal, wearing some kind of fitted protective gear, holding what could only be a weapon. The door chimed, interrupting his concentration. "Enter," he called, quickly closing the file. His assistant Plex stepped in, antennae twitching nervously. "Professor, have you heard? The Defense Fleet lost contact with the emergency response team sent to Outpost 7. Trom's inner eyelids flickered, a sign of distress in his species. How many ships? 3 cruisers, fully crewed. Over 200 personnel. Plex hesitated. There's something else. Before contact was lost, they reported finding Outpost 7 completely intact but abandoned. No signs of battle damage, no bodies, nothing. Just empty. Trom felt a chill run through his body. And the Council's response. They're sending a larger fleet, but it won't arrive for several days. Leader Dex still insists it's pirates, but Plex's voice dropped to a whisper. There are rumors, Professor. Strange signals appearing and disappearing across the entire border region. Some say multiple outposts have gone silent. Trom turned back to his screen and pulled up an ancient star chart, one that supposedly marked the direction humans had fled centuries ago. He overlaid it with the current map showing the affected border regions. They aligned perfectly. Plex, he said quietly, I need you to get me transport to the border. Unofficial transport. Professor, that's incredibly dangerous. The Council has restricted all civilian travel to that sector. I know. Trom stood up, gathering his datapad and a small case of research materials. But if I'm right about what's happening, the Council needs to know the truth before they blunder into something they don't understand. Plex hesitated, then nodded. I know someone with a fast ship who owes me a favor. But Professor, what exactly do you think is happening? Trom looked at the ancient human artifact on his desk, a simple metal disc with strange markings that some scholars believed was a military identification tag. The name Thomas was still barely visible on its worn surface. I think, he said slowly, that the myths have returned. At the very edge of charted space, a sleek vessel hung in the darkness, its black hull absorbing rather than reflecting light. Inside, figures moved with purpose, their forms unmistakably bipedal, their voices low and determined as they spoke a language not heard in this part of the galaxy for centuries. On the bridge, Captain Reed studied the holographic display showing the movements of the alien defense fleet. His face, weathered by years of service, remained expressionless as he received the latest report. All observation posts are in position, sir, said his first officer. The aliens still have no idea we're here. Reed nodded, and they won't until we're ready. 500 years we've waited, Lieutenant. 500 years of rebuilding, of preparing. We can wait a little longer. The Council still thinks we're myths, the lieutenant said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Good, Reed replied. Let them think that, right up until our warships roar into their skies. Captain Reed stood at the viewport of the human warship Defiance, watching the stars. His weathered face reflected in the reinforced glass, lines etched by years of command and the weight of humanity's burden. The bridge hummed with quiet activity as crew members monitored their stations. Captain, called Lieutenant Pike from the communications array. We've intercepted more transmissions from the Alien Council. They're sending a larger fleet to investigate the missing outposts. Reed nodded, his gray eyes never leaving the stars. Time estimate: 4 days, sir. Good. That gives us time. Reed turned to face his crew. 20 men and women occupied the bridge, each focused on their tasks. They represented the best of what remained of humanity, disciplined, determined, and driven by a shared purpose that stretched across generations. Status report on the alien outpost, Reed asked. Officer Gale, a young woman with short brown hair, responded immediately. All alien personnel have been safely contained in the observation chambers, sir. No casualties on either side. The professor, the alien called Trom, continues asking to speak with our leaders. And the data core. Download at 80%, Captain. Their historical records are extensive. Reed allowed himself a small smile. 500 years of searching, and we finally have answers within our grasp. He moved to the central command table, where a holographic display showed the position of the 7 cloaked human vessels strategically positioned throughout alien space. The Defiance was merely the tip of the spear, a scout ship sent ahead of the main human fleet that waited at the edge of the system, hidden from alien sensors. Prepare my shuttle, Reed ordered. I want to meet this professor who studies human myths. Professor Trom paced in his containment room, which the strange bipeds had provided for him after capturing his small research vessel. The room was comfortable enough. The gravity, atmosphere, and temperature adjusted to his species' needs, but it was unmistakably a cell. The door slid open, and Trom turned quickly. A tall bike entered, removing a helmet to reveal a face that sent a shock of recognition through the professor's system. The being looked exactly like the ancient drawings in his research materials. 2 eyes, a nose-like protrusion, a mouth with flat teeth, and skin in a pale brownish tone. The creature wore a dark uniform with strange symbols on the shoulders. "You're human," Trom said, his translation device converting his clicks and whistles into sounds the bite could understand. The human nodded. "Captain John Reed of the Earth Alliance ship Defiance. And you are Professor Trom of the Vis species, a historian specializing in what you call human myths." Trom's inner eyelids flickered rapidly. "Then you are real. All the stories, all the ancient texts, they were true." "Most myths contain elements of truth," Reed said, taking a seat at the small table in the center of the room. He gestured for Trom to join him. "We've been watching your Galactic Council for some time, gathering information, assessing intentions. By abducting Outpost personnel?" Trom asked, reluctantly sitting across from the human. "We needed to understand your technology and communication systems without alerting the wider council. No one has been harmed. They will be returned once we've completed our mission." Trom studied the human with fascination and fear. "What mission?" Instead of answering directly, Reed activated a small device on his wrist. A holographic image appeared between them, a beautiful blue-green planet orbiting a yellow star. "This was Earth," Reed said, his voice taking on a deeper tone. "Our homeworld. Nearly 500 years ago, it was attacked without warning. 3 billion people died in the first day alone." The image changed to show massive explosions across the planet's surface, great clouds of debris rising into the atmosphere, oceans boiling. Trom felt sick watching the destruction. "Who would do such a thing?" he asked. "That's what we've spent 5 centuries trying to discover," Reed replied. The attack came without warning or declaration. The few ships that escaped carried only fragments of sensor data, just enough to know that the attackers used technology similar to what we now see in use by your Galactic Council. Trom's antennae drooped in shock. The Council would never authorize such an atrocity. "Perhaps not the current Council," Reed conceded, "but someone with access to Council technology and resources carried out the attack, and they must have had a reason." The hologram changed again, showing human ships fleeing into deep space. The survivors, less than 1% of our population, fled beyond the reach of our attackers. We found uninhabited systems, built hidden outposts, and slowly rebuilt, each generation raised with one purpose: to grow strong enough to return, discover the truth, and ensure such a thing could never happen again. Trom's scientific mind was racing. 500 years. That would explain why the human stories stopped appearing in our historical records around that time. Reed nodded. While your council dismissed us as myths, we were watching, learning, preparing. Our technology advanced along different paths than yours. We developed better stealth systems, more efficient drives, weapons designed to disable rather than destroy. And now you've returned for revenge, Trom said quietly. The human's expression hardened. We've returned for justice and truth. There's a difference. A soft chime sounded from Reed's wrist device. He glanced at it, then stood. The data download from your outpost is complete. Come with me, Professor. I want to show you something. Trom followed Reed through corridors filled with humans going about their duties. They all stared at him with open curiosity, but none showed hostility. The ship was smaller than council vessels of similar purpose, but seemed more efficient in its design. They entered what appeared to be a command center. Large screens showed star maps, ship positions, and data streams. At the center stood a circular table with a holographic display. This is what we found in your outpost records, Reed said, activating the display. An image appeared. An official council document from 300 years ago. It described a classified military operation called Preventive Measure 7. Trom read with growing horror as the document detailed plans to eliminate a potential threat species before they could achieve interstellar travel. This can't be right, Trom whispered. The Council exists to promote peace and cooperation. Not all Council members share those values equally, Reed replied. Look at the authorization signature. Trom looked and felt his blood turn cold. The operation had been authorized by a high-ranking member of the Krell species, who still held significant power within the Council. The Krell, Reed continued, have dominated your Council for centuries. They present themselves as peaceful diplomats, but they eliminate any species they perceive as a potential rival. Humans were just one of many. If this is true, Trom said, why show me? Why not take this evidence directly to the Council? Would they believe us? Reed asked. Would they accept the word of a mythical species that suddenly appeared with accusations against one of their most respected members? Before Trom could answer, a human officer rushed in. Captain, the alien fleet has changed course. They're heading directly for us at maximum speed. They'll be here in hours, not days. Reed's expression didn't change, but his eyes hardened. It seems someone has detected our presence sooner than expected. He turned to Trom. Now you have a choice, Professor. Your research shows you believe in searching for truth, no matter how uncomfortable. Will you help us present our evidence to the Council, or will you stand with those who would bury the truth? Trom looked at the document again, then at the human captain whose species had endured centuries of exile and rebuilding. I will help you, he decided, but I need to understand everything first. No more secrets. Reed nodded. We have a few hours before your fleet arrives. That should be enough time to show you what really happened to Earth. He gestured toward the door. And to show you what humans have become since then. As they left the command center, alarms began to sound throughout the ship. On the main screen, multiple signals appeared, more alien vessels approaching from various directions. It seems, Reed said grimly, that the myths are about to announce their return to the galaxy. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so chaotic. Delegates shouted over each other, some demanding military action, others calling for peace negotiations. The emergency session had been ongoing for hours with no resolution in sight. Leader Dex pounded his control panel, the sound echoing through the vast chamber. Order. The Council will have order. Gradually, the noise subsided. Dex's 4 arms were tense with strain as he addressed the assembly. We face an unprecedented situation. The ships that attacked our outposts belong to a species many thought was merely legend. The humans have returned. A wave of murmurs swept through the chamber. Our initial fleet has established communication with one of their vessels, Dex continued. They claim they come seeking information, not war. They have requested this council hear evidence of an ancient crime committed against their species. Delegate Murr rose from his seat, his rocky skin glistening under the lights. And we're supposed to believe these invaders. They've disabled our outposts and kidnapped our people. All personnel have been returned unharmed, Dex replied. And the humans have agreed to a diplomatic meeting aboard our flagship. From the back of the chamber came a deep, rasping voice. This is most irregular, Leader Dex. All heads turned toward the speaker, a tall, thin being with gray-green scales and vertical pupils. Ambassador Rix of the Krell moved forward slowly, his ceremonial robes dragging across the floor. The humans are clearly hostile, Rix continued. They entered our space without permission, disabled our defenses, and now make demands. We should meet this aggression with appropriate force. Before Dex could respond, the chamber doors opened. Professor Trom entered, flanked by 2 council security officers, and behind him walked a human. Captain Reed moved with confident strides, his uniform clean and formal, his face set in a neutral expression. The chamber fell completely silent as the human approached the central platform. Some delegates rose from their seats to get a better view. Others shrank back in fear. The council recognizes Professor Trom of the Vis, Dex announced, his voice tightly controlled. And his guest. Trom stepped forward. Esteemed council, I present Captain John Reed of the Earth Alliance. He comes with evidence that must be heard. Reed surveyed the chamber, noting the various species, some familiar from historical records, others unknown to human scientists. His gaze lingered briefly on Ambassador Rix of the Krell before he addressed the assembly. 500 years ago, Reed began, his voice strong and clear. The planet Earth was attacked without warning or provocation. 3 billion humans died within hours. The survivors fled beyond your known space to rebuild, and eventually to seek justice. Ambassador Rix moved forward. A tragic tale, if true. But what has this to do with the Galactic Council? We have no record of such an attack. Reed activated a small device on his wrist. The chamber's central display system came to life, showing the document that Trom had seen aboard the Defiance, Preventive Measure 7. This operation was authorized by the Krell leadership 300 years ago, Reed stated. It details plans to eliminate potential threat species before they achieve interstellar capabilities. Ambassador Rix hissed softly. That document is clearly a forgery. The Krell have always been champions of peace. Trom stepped forward. The document was found in our own archives. Ambassador, I verified its authenticity myself using standard historical methods. And you expect us to believe this creature? Rix gestured dismissively at Reed. A representative of a species that has invaded our space and now makes wild accusations. Reed remained calm. We have more evidence. The display changed to show sensor logs from the day of Earth's destruction. Though the images were fragmented, they clearly showed ships with designs similar to current Krell vessels firing upon the planet. These recordings were salvaged from our defense systems, Reed explained. For centuries, we believed the entire council was responsible. Now we know it was primarily the work of the Krell, acting without full council authorization. The chamber erupted again. Many delegates turned to stare at Ambassador Rix, whose scales had darkened with what might have been anger or fear. Leader Dex raised all 4 arms for silence. These are serious allegations that require investigation. Ambassador Rix, how do you respond? Rix drew himself up to his full height. I respond that this is an obvious ploy. These humans fabricate evidence to divide the council and weaken our resolve. He turned to face the assembly. Consider the timing. They appear now, when the Krell are negotiating resource treaties with many of your worlds. They wish to sabotage our diplomatic efforts with these lies. They are not lies, came a new voice from the entrance. All heads turned to see a human woman enter the chamber. She wore a formal uniform similar to Reed's but with more decorations. Her white hair was pulled back tightly, and her face showed both age and authority. "Commander Anna Stone of the Earth Alliance flagship, Vengeance," she announced, "and I bring proof that cannot be denied." Stone walked to the central platform as whispers filled the chamber. She nodded briefly to Reed before addressing the council. "While Captain Reed engaged with your initial fleet, our other ships located and accessed the Krell military archives." She activated her own device, linking to the display system. "What you are about to see was recorded by the Krell themselves." The display showed a Krell military command center from centuries ago. A younger version of the current Krell High Commander was speaking. "The humans advance too quickly. Their adaptability and aggression make them unique among species we have encountered. If allowed to reach the stars, they will eventually challenge Krell dominance. Preventive Measure 7 is not merely authorized. It is necessary for our continued supremacy." Ambassador Rix lunged toward the display controls. "This is outrageous, fabricated propaganda." Council security officers moved to restrain him, but not before he activated a hidden device in his robes. Throughout the chamber, small communication units carried by various delegates began to emit a high-pitched signal. Commander Stone reacted instantly. "Captain, it's a trigger signal." Reed grabbed Trom and pulled him down just as the first explosion rocked the chamber. Smoke filled the air as delegates scattered in panic. "All council security to the chamber." Leader Dex shouted into his communicator, "We are under attack." Through the chaos, Rick slipped away toward a side exit. Reed spotted him and gave chase, drawing a compact weapon from his uniform. "Stone to all units," the commander spoke into her wrist device. "The Krell have initiated hostile action. Defensive positions only. I repeat, defensive positions only." Outside the council building, the sky darkened as massive ships appeared, dropping their stealth fields. Human warships, dormant for centuries, but never forgotten, moved into defensive positions around the council planet. In orbit, Krell vessels that had been hidden among the regular fleet suddenly changed course, weapons powering up. But before they could fire, the human ships moved with surprising speed, positioning themselves between the Krell and the planet below. Back in the chamber, Trom helped injured delegates evacuate, while Commander Stone coordinated with council security. Through the large viewing windows, he could see the human ships in the sky, not attacking, but forming a protective barrier. "They're defending us," Trom said to no one in particular. "The myths didn't come for revenge. They came for justice." As the chamber emptied, Leader Dex approached Commander Stone, two of his arms injured, but his voice steady. "Your ships could have attacked at any time. Why protect us now?" Stone's gaze was steel. "Humans don't punish the innocent for the crimes of the guilty. The Krell deceived you just as they tried to destroy us." She looked up at the sky where the battle was beginning. "Today, the galaxy learns that humans are no myth, and that we stand for justice, not vengeance." In a distant corridor, Reed cornered Ambassador Rix. The Krell diplomat turned, his scales fully darkened, eyes narrowed to slits. "You should have stayed a myth, human," Rix hissed. "Now you've forced our hand." Reed aimed his weapon steadily. "No, after 500 years, you've finally forced ours." The emergency council bunker buzzed with tense activity. Located deep beneath the main council building, it was designed to protect delegates during planetary attacks. Now it served as both refuge and command center as the battle raged in orbit above. Trom watched the tactical displays with a mixture of awe and horror. The human ships moved with incredible coordination, forming defensive screens around Council civilian stations while engaging the Krell warships that had revealed themselves. 23 Krell warships hidden within our own defense fleet, Leader Dex said, his voice hollow. "How did we not know?" Beside him, Commander Stone studied the displays with the calm of a veteran strategist. "The Krell have been manipulating your sensor systems for centuries. Our scans detected their energy signatures despite their disguises." The main door slid open, and Captain Reed entered with Council security officers. His uniform was torn at the shoulder, and a dark bruise was forming on his jaw. "Ambassador Rix?" Stone asked. "Escaped through a personal transport tube," Reed replied grimly. "But we captured 3 of his aides. They've confirmed our suspicions. The Krell have agents embedded throughout the Council." A communications officer approached Leader Dex. "Sir, we're receiving requests from 17 member species. They all want to know the same thing. Are humans real? And are we at war with them?" Dex looked at Commander Stone, then at Trom. "Professor, you've spent more time with the humans than anyone. What is your assessment?" Trom stepped forward, aware that his words would help shape the Council's response. "The humans have demonstrated remarkable restraint. They could have attacked us at any time over the past weeks while infiltrating our space. Instead, they sought evidence and attempted diplomatic contact." He gestured toward the tactical displays. "Even now, they protect our civilian installations rather than targeting them." Leader Dex considered this, then turned to Commander Stone. "What do the humans want from us?" "Alliance against the Krell," Stone answered without hesitation, "and acknowledgement of the crime committed against Earth." "This goes beyond one attack, no matter how terrible," Reed added. "Our intelligence suggests the Krell have eliminated at least 6 other species before they could reach interstellar capability. They see any species with potential as a threat to their dominance." Dex looked troubled. "These accusations require evidence." "Evidence we have in abundance," Stone said. "The files we recovered from the Krell military archive detail each extinction operation." Before Dex could respond, the tactical display flashed red. The communications officer called out, "Multiple new contacts." Massive energy signatures appearing at the edge of the system. The display showed dozens of new ships materializing from what appeared to be Fold space. Their design matched the Krell vessels, but they were larger and bristling with weapons. "The Krell home fleet," Reed said quietly. "They must have been waiting for Rix's signal." Stone's expression hardened. "All Earth ships. This is Commander Stone. Form defensive pattern Omega. Protect Council installations at all costs." She turned to Dex. "Your people need to evacuate all orbital stations immediately." Dex gave the orders, then faced the humans again. "Even your ships cannot stand against such numbers." A small smile touched Stone's lips. "We're not alone either." As if on cue, the display lit up with new signals as more human ships dropped their stealth fields throughout the system. Not just warships, but massive carriers and support vessels. The true might of the Earth Alliance that had been hiding in wait. At the center of this new formation appeared a vessel that dwarfed all others. Nearly 2 kilometers in length, its black hull absorbed surrounding light, making it look like a void shaped into a weapon of war. "The Vengeance," Stone said with unmistakable pride. "Our flagship, built over 3 generations in the darkness beyond your space." Trom stared at the display. "All this time, you had such power." "Power we hoped never to use," Reed replied. "We came for justice, not conquest." The bunker shook as explosions reached the planet's surface. The Krell fleet had begun bombarding defensive installations, caring little for civilian casualties. "They're targeting population centers," a Council officer reported, horror in her voice. Stone turned to Dex. "Leader, we need a decision. Will the Council stand with us against the Krell?" Dex looked around at the representatives of various species who had made it to the bunker. Many nodded their support. "We will stand with humanity," Dex declared. "The Krell have betrayed the founding principles of this Council." Stone nodded sharply, then activated her communicator. "All Earth vessels, this is Commander Stone. The Council has formally allied with humanity. Implement Sunburst Protocol." On the display, the human ships began to move in perfect synchronization. Smaller vessels formed protective screens, while the larger ships positioned themselves strategically around the system. The Vengeance moved toward the heart of the Krell formation. "What is Sunburst Protocol?" Trom asked. "Something we developed during 5 centuries of preparation," Reed explained. The Krell rely on coordinated tactics and central command. We're about to disrupt both. On the screen, the Vengeance released thousands of small objects that accelerated toward the Krell fleet. Drone swarms, Stone said, each one carrying specialized electronic warfare packages designed to penetrate Krell systems. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Throughout the Krell formation, ships began to drift out of position. Some fired weapons at random, hitting their own vessels. Others went dark completely. How is this possible? Dex asked, astonished. Their technology should be protected against such attacks. We studied every piece of Krell technology we could find for 500 years, Reed said. We know their systems better than they know themselves. A new alarm sounded. A communications officer looked up in shock. Leader Dex, we're receiving a direct transmission from the Krell High Command vessel. The main screen flickered, and a face appeared. A Krell male, older than Rick's, with scales so dark they were almost black. His eyes held none of the diplomatic smoothness of the ambassador. This was a warrior who had never expected to be seen by outsiders. I am High Commander Vex of the Krell Dominion, the figure announced. To the leadership of the so-called Earth Alliance, you have interfered in matters beyond your understanding. Commander Stone stepped forward. We understand perfectly, High Commander. We understand that you ordered the extinction of humanity 5 centuries ago. We understand that you've manipulated the Council for your own purposes, and we understand that your time of deception has ended. Vex's vertical pupils narrowed. You think because you've disabled a few ships that you've won. The Krell have ruled this sector for millennia. We eliminated threats before they arose. Your species was deemed too dangerous to allow into the galactic community. Dangerous to your control, perhaps, Stone replied calmly. Not to peace. Look at you now, Vex hissed, appearing without warning, armed for war. You prove our assessment correct. Reed joined Stone before the screen. We armed ourselves because of what you did to us. We became what we needed to be to survive. The question now is what happens next. Vex seemed to consider this. Perhaps we misjudge. Perhaps there is a place for humans in the galaxy. Under Krell guidance, of course. Call off your attack, withdraw your ships, and we can discuss terms. Stone's expression didn't change. While you move your reserve fleet into position. Our long-range sensors detected them the moment they began moving toward this system. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Vex's face. You see, High Commander, Stone continued, while we've been talking, our drones have been working. Your ship's command protocols now answer to us. Your weapons are offline. Your engines will respond only to our signals. Impossible, Vex snarled. 500 years, Reed said quietly. 500 years of planning, preparing, learning. Did you think we would come back unprepared? The transmission cut abruptly as Vex realized the humans were not bluffing. On the tactical display, the Krell ships were now completely still, their weapons dark. All Krell vessels have been neutralized, a human officer reported. Minimal casualties on both sides. Leader Dex looked at Stone with new respect. You could have destroyed them all. That's not who we are, Stone replied. 5 centuries hasn't changed our fundamental belief in justice over vengeance. She turned to the tactical display. Now comes the hard part, building a peace that lasts. As if to punctuate her words, the Vengeance moved into position above the Council planet, not as a threat, but as a shield against any who would harm the world below. The myths had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. 1 week after the battle, the Grand Council chamber had been repaired enough to host what many were calling the most important gathering in galactic history. Representatives from all Council species filled the seats, with many more watching remotely from their homeworlds. At the center of the chamber stood a new table, one with places for both the traditional Council members and the humans who had changed everything. Professor Trom found himself seated in a position of honor beside Leader Dex. Across from them sat Commander Stone and Captain Reed, their uniforms exchanged for formal diplomatic attire. The chamber buzzed with excited conversation until Dex raised all four arms for silence. "This special session of the Galactic Council is now in session," Dex announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast room. "Today, we address the most significant revelation in our shared history: the return of humanity and the crimes of the Krell leadership." At the mention of the Krell, all eyes turned to the section where their representatives traditionally sat. Instead of Ambassador Rix, a younger Krell female occupied the seat. She wore simple robes without the traditional ornamentation of Krell officials. "The Krell delegation will be led by Acting Representative Nix," Dex explained. "Following the arrest of High Commander Vex and Ambassador Rix, the Krell people have established an interim government, which has pledged full cooperation with our investigation." Representative Nix stood and bowed deeply to the assembly. "The Krell people did not know of our leadership's crimes. We ask for the opportunity to make amends and rebuild trust." Many in the chamber seemed skeptical, but Leader Dex acknowledged her statement with a respectful nod. "Our first order of business," Dex continued, "is to formally recognize the Earth Alliance as a sovereign power and full member of the Galactic Council." The motion passed with overwhelming support. Commander Stone accepted the formal declaration with dignity. "Humanity thanks you," she said, her voice strong and clear. 500 years ago, we fled into the darkness believing the entire galaxy wished us destroyed. Today, we understand that the crime against Earth was the act of a corrupt few, not the will of the many." Captain Reed stepped forward. "With the Council's permission, we would like to present our evidence regarding the Krell leadership's crimes, not just against humanity, but against multiple species over the past 1,000 years." The evidence was damning and comprehensive. The humans displayed records recovered from the Krell military archives, documenting 6 complete extinctions of emerging intelligent species and intervention in dozens more to stunt their technological development. The Krell leadership had systematically eliminated any species they deemed potential competitors, all while presenting themselves to the Council as peaceful diplomats. When the evidence presentation concluded, Representative Nix addressed the chamber again. "As the acting representative of the Krell, I cannot deny these horrible truths. Our leaders betrayed not only the Council but their own people. Most Krell had no knowledge of these crimes." Her voice shook, but she continued, "We accept whatever justice the Council deems appropriate." A solemn mood filled the chamber. Leader Dex turned to Commander Stone. "The humans have suffered the greatest harm. What justice do you seek?" Stone exchanged glances with Reed before answering. "We do not seek the punishment of an entire species for the crimes of its leaders. The responsible individuals should face trial. Beyond that, we propose a program of reparations, not just to humanity, but to the worlds of the species that were completely destroyed." Reed added, "The Krell should also open their territory to scientific and cultural exchange. Isolation bred their fear of other species. Integration into the galactic community is the best safeguard against such crimes happening again." Representative Nix bowed deeply. "The Krell accept these terms with gratitude for your mercy." Trom watched the proceedings with academic fascination. In a matter of days, the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted dramatically. The myth humans had not only returned, but were reshaping galactic politics with remarkable restraint. The session continued with discussions of practical matters: establishing human diplomatic outposts, integrating Earth Alliance ships with Council defense forces, and creating cultural exchange programs. Throughout it all, Trom noted how the humans consistently pushed for cooperation rather than dominance. During a recess, Trom approached Captain Reed, who stood looking out at the planet's twin moons through a large window. "Your people continue to surprise us," Trom said. "You have the military might to demand anything you wish, yet you seek partnership instead." Reed smiled slightly. "Revenge is easy, Professor. Building something that lasts, that's the real challenge." "Will your people resettle Earth?" Trom asked. A shadow passed over Reed's face. "Eventually. The bombardment left much of our homeworld uninhabitable. It will take generations of restoration work before humans can walk freely there again." My research team would be honored to assist, Trom offered. Many council scientists would volunteer their expertise. Reed's expression softened. 500 years ago, we fled believing we were alone in a hostile universe. Now we find we have more allies than we ever imagined. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent call over the council's communication system. All delegates returned to the chamber immediately. Emergency transmission from the Krell homeworld. When everyone had reassembled, Leader Dex activated the main screen. An older Krell male appeared, his scales bearing the distinctive patterns of a high-ranking scientist. Council members, humans, I am Dr. Zach of the Krell Historical Institute. During our internal investigation, we discovered sealed archives beneath our central command facility. The contents, he hesitated. The contents explain why our leaders feared humans so greatly. The chamber grew utterly silent. According to these ancient records, the Krell encountered humans once before, over 10,000 years ago. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Commander Stone stepped forward. That's impossible. Human civilization was primitive 10,000 years ago. We had no space travel capability. Not on Earth, Dr. Zach confirmed. The records speak of a human colony world in what you now call the Arcturus system. According to our ancestors' accounts, humans had an interstellar civilization that rivaled our own. Reed looked stunned. But there's no archaeological evidence of such advanced technology in our past. The records indicate a catastrophic war, Dr. Zach continued. The ancient Krell feared the humans' rapid advancement and adaptability. They launched a preemptive strike that destroyed the human colonies. The few survivors apparently fled back to Earth, losing their technology in the process. Trom's mind raced with the implications, a forced return to primitivism. That would explain the mysterious gaps in Earth's historical record that my research uncovered. Our ancestors believed they had ended the human threat forever, Dr. Zach said. When Earth began showing signs of technological advancement, again millennia later, our leaders feared history repeating itself. They saw your species return to the stars as the rebirth of an ancient enemy. The chamber remained silent as everyone processed this revelation. Finally, Commander Stone spoke. If these records are authentic, they change our understanding of human history. But they do not change our path forward. She looked around the chamber. Perhaps our ancestors were enemies, but we need not be. The cycle of fear and preemptive violence ends today. Reed nodded in agreement. We came seeking justice for Earth. We found something more valuable, the truth about our past and the opportunity to build a different future. Leader Dex turned to address the entire assembly. Let this day be remembered not just as when humans returned to the galactic stage, but when all our peoples chose a new path forward, together. As the session concluded, Trom watched humans and aliens gathering in small groups, talking animatedly about the future. Outside the great windows of the council chamber, human and alien ships patrolled together in the darkening sky. The myths had become reality. The legends had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same again.